All right, this is the Final Percent podcast with Dragon, the one and only JC, the one and only Mr. XBS artist, Mr. Amazing, Mr. Always Shows Up. He's been a friend of mine, for not that long, but it seems like forever in a very good way. We're cut from the same kind of makeup cloth. We love helping people, um, and I've gone to so many things where he's leading. He's come to things where I'm leading, and he and I work on this concept of power to power really well. Because we want to see we want to see everyone become more powerful than they were before. Um, Unfortunately, when you get to a certain level, you run into more people where it's one direction, where you're always the person trying to pull them up. And it's really refreshing when you find someone who, a lot of your weaknesses are their strengths and vice versa, and then you immediately become better just by having them in your life. And JC is one of those people for me, and I felt very blessed to have him. I joined I needed to lose some weight, and I joined a company called Optavia. He was in that, and really helped me understand the magic in that business model, and the health model. It's a really, really cool company, but even transcendent from that, he has just turned into an amazing friend of mine. And so we were talking on this Easter Sunday. Hey, you know what? Do you wanna hop on a podcast really quick? And Mr. Showed up. Imagine that, right? So JC, why don't you give a quick introduction to yourself as well, just so people kind of know your voice, and then I'll interview you on all of the things that I've always wanted to ask on the air, on the record, as embarrassing as I possibly can get.
And I am incredibly unusually open to that. Um, so yeah, JC is the name. Jean-Claude comes from a French background, but everybody calls me Dragon. And Dragon is the name. A lot of people say, what's up with this Dragon thing? It's a podcast personality I've been doing for 6 years. Probably 98% of every morning getting up and doing this Rise Up with Dragon concept. And it's really something selfishly I did for myself to just get me in a state. Yeah, I'm just somebody that comes from a lot of gratitude. And right now, being here with you and hearing the intro for you, I just want to throw something back at you. First of all, I'll say likewise. And before we get into this incredibly potentially embarrassing interview, which excites me because that's where growth takes place. So please make it extremely unusual and unbalanced. But what I just recognized while you were introducing me is how hungry I am, and I'm hungry for growth. So I constantly put myself in an uncomfortable position. But to what you said, when you go all in life, results are predictable, with your physical, mental, and financial. So there is a formula for it, and it leaves clues. But one of the downsides of it, and I think you probably totally understand this. So, and when the first time I heard you say power to power, that's kind of when I started to fall in love with you a little bit. Because the truth of the matter is that what I've been hungry for is to find somebody that lives within the final percent. A lot of people talk about it, but there's very, very few people at the top of the mountain. They're all at the base of the mountain thinking about climbing the mountain. So I've been experiencing the top of the mountain, but it's a very, very small group of people. But every now and then you knock into them, because what you're doing when you're on the top of the mountain and everybody's in the base of the mountain, everybody's trying to get up to the top, but there's this illusion that you're a leader and they're a follower. I don't grow from followers. I grow when I bump into another leader. So the way I look at it, Greg, is when I met you, I said, finally, I met somebody that's up here too. Let's come together. Let's knock into each other, which we're about to do again. And we do it daily. And let's grow even more. But even more so, I love the idea of the final percent. I fell in love with it. Fell in love with your family, your lovely wife, Kayla, and your whole team, your story. But I love the idea that what you're all about, and I am too, is not creating this following. We want to actually build people up so they can get to the top
Exactly
of the
right.
mountain too. So I'm honored to be here.
Well, that's awesome. Well, my first question would be, in a world where it seems like toilet paper is so important, do you crumple or fold?
I would say that I mean, if I'm just completely being transparent, and I think that this is what this is for, I would say I pull about four squares and I fold it over like 1.5 times. I'm just trying to protect my fingers. I mean, I don't want to break through that paper, you know. So I figure like a 2.5 fold protects me.
I love it. That's always one of my go-tos when people are, ask me any question, and I cannot tell you how many times I've asked that question, and then someone goes, "Wait, what? What? Hey, you said anything was on the table. What? I'm not going to tell you whether I crumple or."
Yeah, and you should be put on note that if you're gonna ask a question, you're gonna get an answer here today.
Yeah, yeah, especially from you. Well, um, so let's talk a little bit about your transition, because I mean you went from being a business owner into really owning a business. And you in one of the things that I talk a lot about when I am trying to help people along, and I think you're just so perfect for this concept, is I talk so much about performance versus development. And we used to do a call every single day at 3:33. We did it for 18 days straight. And one of the kind of epiphanies I had was, I'm only living in the land of performance when I'm doing those. I'm not developing myself. And Kayla and I've been writing down new concepts and new things. And on our board over here, I have over 70 brand new, never before heard concepts, because I retreated into development mode, because I realized, hey, you know what? In this time, I need to plant some seeds. I need to develop me, so that I can better and more effectively and efficiently develop other people. Now, with you being so like one of literally the best of the best of the best in your company, it requires you to develop people, develop systems, develop duplication. And so, yes, you perform a lot at a very high level, and you've done it so well to where your performance is kind of like a flywheel, to where now all of a sudden, for you to operate at that crazy level that everyone in your company is going, man, I wish I could be like that one day. You perform at that on almost autopilot, and it has a lot to do with the way that you spend your time developing other people and helping other people. What are some of your, you know, what's some of the JC secret sauce on developing a person? Because here's the hard thing for leaders is you cannot develop everyone the exact same way, but at the same time you also can. So, like, for instance, a super introvert and a super extrovert, you're going to connect with those people a little differently and develop them a little differently. Where are you coming from when you're in full development mode? Because realistically, just like, and I love that you segued with, now full disclosure, guys, we are freestyling. I did not give JC a script. Hey, these are the questions I'm going to ask. I
Yeah,
certainly didn't.
and I'm sitting here thinking like he just said a lot, and I heard a couple of those words that I'm going to build a conversation on right
Well, yeah, and what I love is you talked about going up a mountain, that you're not built on followers, push power towards power, and you really try to make people powerful.
now. Mm.
And I love the way that it, because there's one thing about being there, and there's one thing about showing up, but it's completely different on how you show up. And one of the things I absolutely love about you is when you show up like you're there. And I think that is, maybe one of the biggest secret sauces, because a lot of people will show up, but they're almost a different person every time, or they're going through this, or they just had this, or they just had this. And I guarantee you, if JC said that he's going to show up for you and he had just gotten almost tragic news, you would not know it. Why? Because he's showing up for you, not him. And
Yeah.
so I want to know more about, like, how do you, because I mean, give or take, how many people realistically, your organization alone, that you're helping head up and develop, give or take, how many people are in your organization?
You know, we are a publicly traded company, so I'm not really supposed to say that, but you know, on an airwave that we really don't know, because I know a lot of people listen to your podcast and mine, but it's a shit ton. You know what I mean? And I would just say that it's a number that is silly for me to say because nobody would believe it anyway, but it's more than you think, right?
That's awesome.
You know, couple of things I just grabbed from you. First of all, the difference between performance and development. I so resonate with that because when you're a performer, you can just go through like a wormhole, and all of a sudden come out on the other side and say, I just performed for everybody for so long, but did I develop? So one of the things that I learned early on in personal development is that when I perform, I used it selfishly as a way of developing. Like Greg, one of the things that I love about you is if we get these ideas, most people don't know when Greg Kimball speaks for 30 minutes to a group of people, very often him and I had a 4-second chat before it. He grabbed onto an idea, and then in that 30 minutes, he gave them gold, but he's developing it as well. So I learned that's public speaking, which, by the way, here's a little hidden secret about Dragon. My number one biggest fear in the world is public speaking, which is why I develop that craft every day. So anytime you hear me speak, I just want you to know that I'm developing part of my weakness. So that's a big win for me. But this idea of developing others, transparently, spent most of my life not doing that. I, for the most part, spent most of my life a fat asshole. And I don't know if we're allowed to say that word on my podcast. I use that every now and then, but I think it's a descriptive way of just talking about somebody that just thought about themselves. When I used to speak all the time,
This
it was
is
always
so good. You keep talking. I am grabbing a notebook because I have to take notes on this. I'm already have it. See, this
well,
is
that's
why
this is one of the things that I love about you is every time we talk and throw things back at each other, it just takes me to this new place where I like living in the final percent. Here's a little testimony for Greg. I like speaking to you, Greg, because whenever we speak, I think that I'm in the final percent. And then when we speak, I realize that there's like another area that we can go to, and we start taking notes. So, the idea of developing others, I went through a massive shift. And it happened when I had a mentor that approached me when I was a big fat asshole, right? And that was at a time where I was getting a lot of credibility. I'd started a worldwide humanitarian organization. I had a big chiropractic practice. I was getting chest bumps on stage. Man, I was cool. I was about as cool as can be. But the only problem is I was a freaking know-it-all as well. So when I made a decision that I wanted to become big, perhaps maybe going to the final percent, I reached out to a guy that I perceived was who I wanted to be. I saw him up on stage, and I just paid him way more money than I had. And I said, I want you to teach me how to be like you, which was another mistake as well. But either way, I chose him. It's the first time I chose a mentor. And I remember I don't know how graphic we're allowed to be on here. Can I just tell the truth?
Yeah, absolutely. You tell it. Always, if you're with me, I want you to be the final percent of you. So there,
Right.
I don't censor anything.
Well, then I'm gonna tell it exactly like it happened.
Done deal.
So if you can just imagine, my chest was all puffed up in life. But here's a little side note and truth. The reason why I was doing that is because I was the most freaking insecure person you ever met in your life. And I was hiding behind my ego, and that's a whole other story. But anyway, I hired this guy, paid him a ton of money, and we got on a phone call because I was going to pay him. I paid him thousands of dollars a month to just speak to him for an hour a week, right? And I got on the phone and I hired him to talk to me, but I started to talk to him. And I just remember this guy was smart enough to just go, "Whoa!" He said that to me, and I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Shut the fuck up." And this is about 14 years ago. And I said, "Nobody ever told me that," right? He goes, "Who hired who here?" So anyway, I started listening to him.
Mm.
And he said to me, he goes, "Let me ask you a question." And I want everybody listening to take this question. And Greg, you can take it for yourself. He asked me a question that changed my life forever. Well, it was a two-part question. First thing he said was, he goes, "Let me ask you a question, JC. What do you think people think about you?" And I kind of like, went back like this. And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'd say half of them like me and the other half don't." And he says, "Well, what about the other half?" I said, "Fuck them." Right? And then he asked me the second question. This is when my house of cards fell down, which was the greatest moment of my life. He said to me, he goes, "Let me ask you another question. What's more important to you, to be right or kind?" And that's when it all happened. That moment right there, God bless this guy. Speak to him almost every week for 14 years. Spent hundreds of thousands of dollars with him. Well worth it. I realized that all I ever was trying to do was be right. And I gave myself grace. There was a reason for it. But back to your question about developing others, I wasn't trying to develop others. I was trying to be somebody that everybody loved and everybody followed. And that's why I never could go the final percent in my business, in my health, and everything like that. So I just made a quick little flip of the switch and I said, I'm going to start being kind, listening more, caring more about what they want rather than what I want them to want, right? Which ironically is the greatest sales tactic in the world, to not sell. It's to find out what somebody friggin' wants and get them that.
Yeah.
I never went to a restaurant and had a waiter come up and say, "Hey, you're gonna have the fish, you're gonna have the chicken." They always said, "How can I help you?" So that's when I shifted and I started to take on a new form of development where I recognized that my purpose, and this is the person that I became, that which is why I could notice somebody like you. The old me, you and I would, you would have, I don't know how you would have handled the old me. But then again, the old me might have met the old you, and we might have get along there too. We might have gotten into a bunch of
Maybe
trouble.
we would have gotten into a bunch of trouble.
So in any case, Greg, I started caring more about what other people needed, and I started to recognize that who I was somebody that was gifted, just like all of us. Nobody are here by mistake. We all have, as Martin Luther King speaks about, the drum major instinct. We all have that, and we just get destroyed by our mother, father, teacher, and preacher. But I just became this guy that said, "Hey, my name is JC, now Dragon, and I'm here to develop you, to offer you everything that I have to guide you to be better than me." And I started to be completely okay with people that are better than me. So when I heard you talk power to power, I just said, that's what I'm looking for. I mean, everybody wants the final percent, but I'm super hungry to find people. Hold on one second. I'm getting annihilated right now with my.
He's an
Hold on.
in-demand human being.
No. It's just it could even be my mom. But
Hey, sometimes your mom demands you, man. If there's one thing about my mom's taught me is sometimes she demands me.
so in any case, I started to recognize that my purpose here is to serve others, and the greatest gift that you'll ever receive in your life is when you wake up in the morning and realize that you actually have the ability to help others get what they want. And that's why I keep throwing my stuff at you. And if I find out that you or anybody else crushes it in life and super successful, I'm okay with that. I used to not be okay if somebody was more successful than me. It actually excites me, and what I get off on is seeing that I played a role in it.
Well, I mean, and I think that's one of the things I've had a lot of people talk to me and we because I'm on your team in Optavia as well, and we had that conversation because some people go, oh well, it's always some it's always I think you've been in sales long enough now, in any industry. You only really have like 10 excuses. It's like I've got to talk to someone else. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. Basically,
I call that, I say everybody walks around on their back, they carry just like Santa Claus, a
mhm,
big bag of bullshit. And as soon as they actually have to do something, they just reach in and pull one out and they give themselves a heart
exactly.
attack.
And that's why I love, and this kind of applies to every area of life, because we were talking to some of the people on our team, and we really encourage people, you don't have to sell. Don't try to sell. All we need you to have are consistent conversations. And I was talking to a member of our team last night, and he was saying, oh well, this, that, and the other. And I simply asked him one question. Is I said, hey, why do you think you need to be validated by someone else? Why do you not think that you're good enough to close the deal? And it was like a light bulb went off, because he was immediately like, wait a minute, I could totally do this. I don't need to, rely on other. And I said, so one of the things in sales, in that conversation, if you always think you need someone else, then they're going to sense that. And even though you believe in it and this, that, and the other, but if you feel like you need someone else to validate you, and that's why I love the one really good thing. I'm not a super big Grant Cardone fan. I very much respect what he's accomplished. I think, good entrepreneurship is in the middle of a Dave Ramsey and a Grant Cardone. Both of them are too extreme for me. um, but one thing that I love that he says the um, in his sales process is he just says, "Have you seen enough to make a decision?" And I love that idea. And that's one of the things that I was telling our mutual friend last night. Is I said, before you get someone on the phone that you feel like validates you or this, that, and the other, just ask them, hey, have you seen enough to make a decision? And if they say, oh well, I need more this, that, and the other, get them to the right person with the right information and the right nudge. That makes sense. But oftentimes, if you don't say, hey, have you seen enough to make a decision, you're actually talking them out of the sale when they were ready, but you're just talking too much. And it's like, okay, and I'm talking and I'm talking, and now let's get on the phone with this other person, and this, they're just like, shit, I would have signed up like 15 minutes ago. Now I just want to get off the phone. And so I think that that's one of the things that, people like you and I, we had to go through adversity to figure out. But it's trusting ourselves. And that's the thing. You had to trust yourself with, transitioning your career. You trusted yourself to lead this giant organization. And he can't say it because he's so high up, but I will say it's it's at a very minimum in the very high six figures, if not seven, of people on this guy's team, on the way that he leads. I mean, JC takes every ounce of his being and tries to make another version of himself, and that's what makes him great. Because
Better version.
a better exactly. And I mean, that's
Because
what.
the truth is that I got tons of I've got a lot of kryptonite. I would love to teach everybody what I know, and from my mistakes, I actually want, nobody's going to be perfect, but I actually am hooked on seeing other people thrive,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and I think, and just in that sales thing, I think trusting yourself is really important, because you're not always selling someone else. And I think this is important for everyone to understand. The greatest salesman that is yourself.
Mm.
You're the person who talks you into all of the dumb shit that you've ever done in your entire life. And when you recognize that, oh, I'm talking myself into something. Oh, I'm doing this. You spend more time with you, and if you're lying. If you're doing the BS thing. That. But if you start doing it the other way and just saying, hey, you know what? I do succeed more than I fail. I am good. I do care. I do have this person's best interest at heart. And when you say, trusting yourself to just, ask for the deal. And I think that's in sales. The thing that people will miss out on most is they don't trust themselves. So, and not from a malicious standpoint, they're just scared and they're timid. And so on the other side, the client or the consumer can feel that, and then they think something's wrong, but it's just because, and that's probably the number one thing in sales, is people forget to ask for the deal. They'll have all this conversation and they'll show a product, and they'll show a car, they'll show a house, they'll show a health plan, they'll show all of these different things, and they'll have countless conversations, and they'll never say, have you seen enough to make a decision? They don't ask for the deal. It's fascinating, and that's because everyone is secretly scared of being rejected. And if we can just get over that, they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting this time. They're rejecting, maybe they don't want to let you know their money situation, whatever it is. But just understand, you are never going to get the deal if you don't ask. It's like that old saying, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And that's why I love JC, is he wants the ball in his hand. He's also not scared if he sees one of his players with the ball or that's open, he will pass the ball. But if you give him the opportunity, he will take the shot. He will shoot the shot, and he will keep shooting. And that's why he's developed into this thing that is, a little bit like a unicorn. And it's funny, I wish people could see under the hood and behind the scenes, because you and I both know, and we talk about it all the time. We wish people would not think that it's a unicorn. It's not magic. You don't have to be like in this certain box. You don't have to be Greg. You don't have to be JC. You can 100% connect with what's inside of you and make it all come true. But everyone's like, "Oh, how do I got to change into that person?" That's not true. That's not true. And that's why I think that one of your superpowers is you give people the courage to be themselves, and you equip them instead of counsel them. I mean, there's a lot of times where, and this is probably why you and I have resonated, because because we have been bullshit artists, we have seen bullshit, we've recovered from bullshitting, and so the thing is we when someone kind of lets that part in there, we don't try to counsel them or console them with all the BS that they're going through. We try to equip them to go through it. Why? Because we know how to go through it. We know how to recognize it. We know how to go, no, I've seen this, I've done this. Not today. We're not going to do this. And I think that's so great, because you spend so much of your time equipping people, and it's really fun to watch. And because you've been so close with our team, I cannot tell you whether any one of the team members, how many times you have just, and I didn't know that you guys were on a call, but you just gotten off the phone with one of our team members, and they're calling me to let me know how amazing JC is. Dude, JC is always there. He's always got my back. It's so amazing to have JC in my life. I'm like, no, I know he's a rad dude, So it's just really fun to watch that. Maybe you didn't know a lot of that, but behind
I
the
don't, I
scenes.
mean, the truth is I don't think that of myself all the time. So, it really like I mean, I have a lot of respect for you, and to hear you say things to me about being respecting me and all that stuff, that goes very, very deep. And whenever I hear somebody say that I've done something good, um, it really, really hits me deep, because I don't think that of myself all the time. Remember something. If you meet somebody like me that's out there spending all his life trying to lift others up, you
Mm,
got to wonder what that background is. Like, I always joked and said, that Mother Teresa must have come from some naughty days or something like that.
yeah.
Because anybody that I ever meet that serves others on this level, they've come from a past where they don't want anyone else to experience that past, and that's one
Mm,
of the things that drives me forward. There's some people on your team that I see some of my old self in, and it scares me to think of me allowing them to go there. because I
Mm.
hated it so much, So if I really, really want to speak the truth, um, I have experienced some pretty nice darkness in life. And when I say I'm a recovering bullshit artist, I use that stuff to stay alive, and so I'm blessed in that sense. But I don't ever want to go back there. And if I see somebody else sucking, I worry about them going to a place that not everybody can get through. So that's why I just put everything on the line and feel like my purpose is to do that. And that brings up the whole comparative reality thing, because I mean I suffer from that as well. If I see somebody doing something at a bigger level than me, I'll get that inward feeling. I'll get that inadequate feeling, and I might take that feeling and turn it into action, because that's what I've learned how to do, and I have a structure and a system, and I have friends like you to keep me in action. But the truth is that, like, every single day, and I want everybody to know this, because you made mention of the fact that some people might be thinking they can't succeed because they're not you or me. I want everybody to know that every single day, dragons are swooping over my head. And they're just saying, hey, you be careful. Don't get too big for your britches, because we are still here. And I've just got a really badass dragon slaying sword,
Mhm.
but I'm fighting him all the time. So one of the things I heard you speak a lot about is be do have.
Mhm.
You know, one of the things that I learned is that it's who you are that determines how well what you do works.
Mhm.
So I think everybody listening knows, and you'll pull from this jacuzzi experience right now some golden nuggets, and you'll go, wow, Greg Kimball, JC, oh my God, I know so much right now. Turn that into action if you really want to have fun. If you learn something today, give it away. That's how it's going to stay. But I just want everybody to know that personal growth and personal development is about the who, not the do. The do actually is how you craft the who, right? So it's a who, not a do do, right? Too many people are in the do do land. But if you work on yourself and you build yourself up, which is what you do for me, Greg, that power versus power thing, I actually take what you give me and then I go out and I mess around with it. I test it out. I try it out, completely detached from failure and outcome, because that's out of my control. What's in my control is taking things that I'm going to learn from this talk today
Mhm.
and trying them out with 100% success if my goal is to try it
Mhm.
and practice the craft, right? So yeah, that's why I'm constantly working on myself, because I want to be of more value to help people so they don't have to suffer like I did.
Well, one of the I wrote down a bunch. I think we've got to do a whole talk on doo doo land. I love that. I
I
I
told him
always forget
I
about the
was talking about duty.
I I always I always forget about the jacuzzi experience. I've got to do a talk on that. One of the things that I think um separates, that probably the single biggest thing that separates, it again, I love us making sure everyone understands, no, you don't have to be a certain person. You don't have to be Greg, you don't have to be JC. You don't have to be these seemingly unicorns, because realistically everyone's a unicorn, everyone is
I would
special.
also say that a lot of people listening right now could actually dwarf us in success if they
A,
have if they
a
have fun.
thousand the only difference that I really see about the way you and I live our lives, and this is in pretty much every aspect that is really separating ourselves, and it's not a situation that we have some sort of magical makeup. We just have different standards, and our standards dictate, hey, we're going to have this many conversations. And going back to like the sales thing, we say constant conversations, but in the same regard, you and I mean, we're not selling each other anything anytime that we talk, but our constant conversations are generating new concepts, and they're lifting one another up, and they're filling up. I have this thing in my 33-day uh thing called the tire. Like, if you were a tire, where are you letting the air out of your life, and then how well does a flat tire roll? And when you get into these kinds of constant conversations, we're filling each other's tire up and we roll faster. That's just the way it is. And we don't even have to roll down the same road. Just us having that conversation makes our lives roll faster. But the biggest thing, my big, huge, unbelievable takeaway that you like, the bomb that JC dropped, that I don't know if he fully understands the unbelievable, special sauce he stumbled into, that we really need to maybe take like a whole series and unpack. But part of your past makes you serve people so that they don't have to go through what you went through. And that makes and so here's what you did. Now people aren't living in the land of shame. And now people are connecting and respecting their past, using it as a tool. And now they are going to become someone who serves someone so that they don't let people get hurt like they were. This is magic. Part of your past makes you serve people so that they don't go through or so that they don't have to go through what you went through. And making the connection with, man, Mother Teresa must have just been, an interesting person early on, because she wants,
Potentially naughty.
yeah, and she wants to make sure people don't go through whatever it is that really hit her hard.
Well, think about it. Why would a parent tell a kid, no, 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 don't do that? It's because they fucked it up,
Yeah,
right?
exactly right.
So
Yeah.
that's all it is. It's like a lot of people are coming from the future to say, hey, let me tell you what's going to happen in the future. But you and I have the ability to come from the past and step
Mm-hmm.
into somebody's present and just say, hey, let me hook you up with some information right now that's going to change your life forever. I come from the past. you know
That is just, I'm telling you. And then I I'm
By the way, Greg, as you know, I'm almost finished with my book, but I've alluded to you and Kayla before that I have this very interesting idea that's
mhm,
all based on that and an event. And I knew that you, Kayla, and KMG and TFP, I knew like the first day that I met you. I told Nika Chicken, I said, my idea, and it's
mhm,
a big one. And I said, it's going to be with the Kimballs.
mm.
So I can't wait for that to unveil.
Well, I think one of the things, just going back to when you were saying we'd do these 333 calls, and we'd have these 4-second conversations, and they'd spiral into these 30-minute kind of TED Talk vibes. Um, if people really want to change their life, connect with people who can challenge the way that you think. Connect with people who, basically, you have to have an extremely high standard on who you let into your mind and into your heart. And this very much goes to our friends. And that's why I love and I cherish who you are in my life, because I'm looked to so often for the guy who has the answers, and to the guy who's going to figure it out, and I'm going to throw the Hail Mary and catch the ball. And it's so nice to get on a call like this and really go down these rabbit holes of thought leadership that we can expand upon and expound upon with one another and make these ideas better. The other, like, your big epiphany, whoa, 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 would you rather be right or kind? That is such a, I wish more people, when you're talking to the waiter, the bellman, the the salesperson on the phone, the telemarketer, your wife, your kids. Would you rather be right or kind? I think that is such an unbelievably important question, and I'd never even heard about that. And I love, just because obviously I live in the land of sales a bunch. You know, you connecting that with the waiter and saying, hey, a waiter's not going to say you're having the chicken, you're having the steak, and you're doing a vegetarian dish, and everyone, like, this person doesn't eat beef, person doesn't eat this person's not this, but the person getting beef is a vegetarian. No, they wouldn't go for that. The
Even,
waiter says,
even
hey,
if they
how can
wanted the beef, even if they wanted the beef, they wouldn't go for it because they were told to do it.
exactly, and that's this. How can I help? Find out what people really want. I think that
Those are
that
those are the words I always start my day with every day. And when I put my feet on the ground, this is part of my rise up process. The first thing I vocalize in the morning is thank you. I
mm,
give gratitude. And because if there's this very, very gentle, fragile place from when you have your eyes closed to open, unconscious to conscious, I give my chicken a kiss and I give gratitude because I got to get my act together. I'm booting up my program. But when I put my feet on the ground, the first words that I say, and I say it out loud, Chicken's been with me for 2 years. She'll tell you, I say, how can I help? Because I make a statement to start the day that places me in my purpose, and I want to say something, really pivotal about you. This is deep. You mentioned before one of the things that in the whole power push to power thing is that you and I are not trying to sell each other
mm,
on anything. But I realize I actually am trying to sell you on something in
mm,
our relationship. And you know what it is?
mm.
That I respect you.
Oh,
And I want you to know that. And one of the reasons that I keep showing up, as if we're not even on the podcast, I'm just having a talk with my buddy here. One of the reasons, Greg, that I show up all the time, I'm not trying to impress you, but I'm trying to impress upon you that I see you and I respect you.
mm,
And you will notice, because I think you probably are waking up to see that you do that to a certain extent too. You'll notice that that's not going to stop. And what's interesting about that to everybody listening, by the way, what we're doing now is sales 5.0. Because if you really create authentic relationships, you don't have to sell anymore.
mm,
But what you're going to see is when times get tough and they're not comfortable, that's when true relationships and friendships show up. So
mm,
I'm trying to develop that with you.
mm. It's so interesting, and I have not released this, but I'm developing a talk, and it is so interesting with the way that you just circled back around to this without realizing it. I am developing a whole talk on respect being the only currency of life.
Oh,
I literally
when is it coming out? When is it coming out?
I have a whole talk on that, and you saying, hey, I am trying to sell you on something. I'm trying to sell you on the fact that I want you to know I respect you. And that is the biggest payment you can give anyone, is to truly respect someone,
But it's
respect
earned.
their time, their energy. And that's why, like, I was talking to our team because JC puts a lot of time, and I said, the best thing you can do for JC is to be successful. He doesn't need a ton of money off of you or from you. That's not what he's about. If he sees that his time was well spent with you and that you're okay, that he puts that into his heart, and it pays him forever. And I just that is, I think that is so cool. And again, man, I just want to really point out that is the secret sauce. A lot of people live in the present, live in the present. The present's so freaking important. And then, oh, my future, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm going. But being able to take both the present and the future, but connect it to the past. And I'm just going to read this again. Part of your past makes you serve people so that they don't have to go through what you went through. That is one of the greatest things I have heard from anybody. I don't care who you are, whether you're a Jim Rohn or a Zig Ziglar. That is that helps people cope and respect their past instead of being shamed from their past. Makes them more powerful. All you're doing is equipping people and empowering people. And I mean, that's why I love you, man. That's who you are. And
A lot
I
of love.
just Yeah, it is. I will say, every time I hang out with you,
I'm kind of forgetting that other people are going to listen to this.
every I was actually thinking that when you said, like, when you said the respecting, I almost brought a tear to my eye, and I was thinking, I was like, I'm not
Well,
doing
but
that
I
on
know that
purpose.
that's, I also know that that's important to you.
Yeah, very much so.
And when you have a relationship with someone that you actually do respect, you also recognize what's important to them. And this is sales 6.0. Um, when you know something, it's kind of like a language of love type thing. When you know something's important to somebody that you actually respect, you'll go out of your way to give it to them.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
just remember, the easiest lesson I ever learned is the most interesting person in any crowded room is going to be the person that is most interested in you.
Yep, absolutely.
So be that person.
Well, let's I will say the jacuzzi experience is always great. It's it definitely leaves me with one of those feelings when you're like in the
I like
jacuzzi,
the jacuzzi, man.
and you get out and you're just like, man, I kind of miss that. So, this is great. I have a sneaking suspicion the dragon JC, uh Mr. XBS artist, now current empower the entire world artist, um you know you're going to be a regular here on my show, and you're certainly 1,000%, dare I say, to the final percent, one of those, inner circle, high level, amazing people that are a staple in my life. And I just love these conversations always result, and that's why, like, right when you just started telling your story, I'm like, I got to get my notepad. I have to get my notepad. It's a non-negotiable. If JC's talking, it's going to spark some things, and I love when we get together, this exponential energy does come out, and that's what I love so much about having people like you in my life, and very specifically you in my life, because it helps me transcend me. And those are the kinds of people that you want to hang on to. People who hold, I talk about this combination box. Life gives you a combination box, and then it throws little people and things and opportunities and events in your path to help you unlock your true potential. And you run into people like JC, who helps, it gives you another combination, or another number in your combination to help you unlock your true potential. And those are the people that I'm always looking for. Is I don't want people who just love all what I'm about. Yeah, that feels good in the short term, but I love people who can challenge me, change me. We can, have these exponential epiphanies. But most important, I'm always looking for people who help me transcend me. And that's what I love about you. You've helped me take me to another level, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and what you do, you just made me realize now on the fly, is that whenever I speak to you and I hear you, share your thoughts, you always somehow make me understand better what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. I'm like, oh, that's what I've been trying to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, a lot of motivational speakers are famous for saying this, um, but you can't see you inside the frame. You
Mm,
can't see your picture if you're in the frame, and that's why when you get people who can be objective, it is so important. So JC can see my picture better than I can. I can see his picture better than he can. And as long as we remain open and we talk at our full potential, it is absolutely going to raise one another's game. And those are those exponential relationships that I talk about so much, that you want to watch out for so that you can transcend you. They're unbelievably rare. So don't think that everybody can be developed into this person in your life. That will be a mistake. I thought that everybody could do that for you. It's just not the case. When you know, you're going to know. And that's why, I'll end with this. The three most powerful words on planet Earth that are more powerful than I love you is I just know. And that is the biggest thing, because there's a lot of times where love like for instance, when Kayla wanted to move to Denver to be with me, she didn't tell her parents and her friends and her family, "Hey, I love him. I have to go. I just I love him. I love you. It wasn't a love thing. She just, wait, why are you doing this? I just know. I just know that's where I need to be. I just know that's my person. I just know that's what I have to do. I just know that I'm capable of more. I just know that I can be more. I just know when you go the final percent for you can unlock every part of your life. And that's why when you find those people that you just know that they're meant to be, you just know that they got put in your path to unlock some special stuff. Hang on to them. Don't squander your I just knows, because I love you comes and goes. It really does. I just know doesn't. That's like I just know. And that's why, because you can fall up and down and in and out of love. But when you just know, it's there. It is what it is. And I mean, JC is my brother. He's gonna be here forever. I just know. And I watch. We're gonna do a podcast in another 30, 40 years, and we're gonna be like, oh, what number podcast is this? Do you remember when we had our first one and we just said, whoa, we just know. Mark my words,
I'm
it's
going to be talking
happening.
big shit by then. I hope it still makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, dude, brother, I appreciate you, and I will talk with you soon. This podcast for you is going to be up on Tuesday.
Sweet. I look forward
Awesome.
to it. I'm going to put it up on my podcast as well.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. Talk with you soon.